Hi, welcome to the small shed. Today I want to have a look at bench dogs and how to make your own. See you in a minute. Now, for those that aren't in the know and haven't got to use bench dogs, I hadn't seen or really used them until about a year ago when I bought the little Festool MFT table, and since then it's pretty much transformed the way I work. Rather than having a vise and things like that, I found that the table itself is versatile enough with bench dogs and clamps to work well. And one of the things I decided I'd have a go at was making my own bench dogs. Now, this relates only to the Festool sized holes, which are 20 mil. There are different ones available for different sizes. The Triton work table I've got, I think, is a 19 mil hole. Certainly my normal bench dogs won't fit in that. So it's again slightly restricted in that. But if you're doing your own table, or you have your own table and you want to just knock some holes in, it's very useful to be able to do all sorts of things. Let me just show you. So a quick look at the principles of this. You don't need an MFT table. You can have your own table with holes in it. There's no need to have the sort of grid that there is on the Festool table. It's actually at 96 mil centres, all of the holes. But the important thing to do is, if you can get some dog holes at right angles and you're using a track saw, it's brilliant to be able to just stick a couple of dogs in, put your workpiece up against it, and a couple more dogs in there. You can put your track from your track saw on that, up tight against there, and cut, or either side. You can use it that way around if you want to, and you can cut knowing that that will be a right angle. So it solves the problem that I have with the MFT table, that it has a large piece that comes down that cuts at right angles, but all I find it useful for is bashing me on the head when I'm working and it falls down. It takes up quite a lot of room. There's a fairly complicated bracket down the bottom that goes on the front, and that also is a bit of a nuisance. So it dispenses with all that rubbish, and you don't have to have particularly any specific make of track saw. As long as you've got those holes at right angles, you can cut yourself nice right angle repeat cuts with tools, with the track saw. The next thing I find it very useful for is clamping materials. If you're doing some planing or something like that, you can shove yourself a dog in there. You can get a clamp. That's again a Festool one, but I think Bessie do them as well. That just pushes up against there, and then you just clamp it tight, and then that is dead rigid then, and so you can work on top of that without any great fuss. It's useful to have clamps again. Those are Festool ones, but they are available from all sorts of folks. Easy just to clamp your workpiece down, and I've got the Bessie quick clamps, do a similar sort of thing. On there and just work to be able to work on timber. So that's the principle of having the holes, and really all you need on top of the holes is the dogs. 20 mil hole, and depending on what you're using them for, different sizes, different heights, and I've got several of these that I've bought over the last few years. None of them are the proprietary ones, so none of them are desperately expensive, but again I thought I'd have a go at making some myself and use readily available materials. I do have a lathe. It's only small and it's certainly not really got the capacity to be able to make 20mm pieces like that. So I started off with 20mm round, 20mm round bar. That's available online. You can buy it in any length. You don't need a lathe to cut it. This has been cut with I think I used a piercing saw. It was then ground off on a belt sander and then finally polished off. So all the runs that way are sanding marks. It's not like something that's been turned in a lathe like that. But that's perfectly adequate. And then all I needed was something to stop them falling through the gap. And what I found for that, if I can find it, are these. They're go-kart steering bushes. They're to go on the steering column of a go-kart. They're, I don't know, I think £2.50 for a pair, something like that. Again online, eBay, just look for go-kart steering bush. That is a 20mm hole, fits perfectly over the dog that you've made, and you can therefore cut any of these to any length. I've got long ones, got a couple of short ones that I've made, and that will give you your own dogs. That one again you can see just been cut, polished, tidied up. They don't, I mean, you don't even need a particularly tidy end. You can also cut the aluminium on a mitre saw, so that's not a big problem either. But that's what I'm using, and I've found all sorts of uses to be able to make things that I want of different sizes. This one is specifically made to fit the fence of the side of the clamping rail on a track saw against it, because I've got the clips from Axminster that slide into the runner of the saw, and then they just clip over that. That's the rail. The little clip slides in. That sits against the dog, and it actually clamps onto it there, and that holds it against it. And a pair of those, you can pull that out of the way, but it just holds it tight against it. And I just needed to trim the bush down to be able to get it close up against the post. The advantage of this is you can make any length you want, any number you want. They're not hugely cheap compared to buying them, I don't think, but again, it's the satisfaction of making something yourself and custom making something to your exact size requirements. The other thing you could do, if you have a lathe, you can drill and tap them for the clamping screws, which you get with a lot of the proprietary ones that will enable you to clamp these, tighten these up from underneath, and it fixes the dog in position. So far I haven't found any need to actually fix these in. They're not going anywhere, and they are a useful alternative. I'd say I've made a couple of those, a couple of the larger ones, and a couple of the small ones, all of which seem to fill my needs. That's not one of theirs, that's not one of mine, that's one of mine. And so the only trouble is getting them out sometimes, because they are pretty snug fit. They fit in nicely. And to keep it all together, since I've built the little mobile cart, I've put all the clamps in one of these sustainer boxes. Again, you can put these things in any sort of container, but it's nice to keep them all together. And I just built myself a little tray for the dogs, and then there's a piece underneath it that's got the pads that you can put bits of wood on if you're finishing them or you're cutting them and you want to just clear above the top of the table to stop your blade cutting into the table, and then that just keeps all the spare dogs in there all together under the workbench as and when I want them. Clamps, keeps it all tidy, and then it all sits underneath in the mobile cart, so I've got them out with me whenever I'm out using that. Well, I'm sorry that's only a short video this week, but I've gone from famine to feast on the Saturday videos. I've got that much stuff coming in from other people that I've not actually had any great time to do anything myself that would normally go out on the Friday videos. So I just thought I'd give you an update on how to make your own dogs as a quick video. Look forward to seeing you next week, when hopefully I'll have something a bit more substantial to offer. See you then. Bye.